In this video, I will review the new Marvel series, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Hey guys, if you're new to this channel, my name is Marike and welcome to our channel, Touch of Magic. In this video, I will review the newest edition of the MCU universe, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm very excited about the series. I am a huge MCU fan. I've watched every movie at least twice. So let's start with the review. These series have been released on Disney Plus on the 19th of March 2021. The director of this series is Carrie Scotland. This female Canadian director is better known for movies and series like The Handmaid's Tale, 100 Dead Men Walking, and The Loudest Voice. The stars of this series include Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier, Anthony Mackie as the Falcon, and a new addition, Danny Ramirez as Joaquim Torres. The episode starts where Endgame ended. You see Sam in conflict about the shield that Steve gave him. Next we see something very Marvel, an action opening. Sam is in Tunisia on a mission for the Air Force and he has to rescue Captain Fazant from an organization called LEF. Maybe you could remember them because they were also in the second Captain America movie. Again, we only see Sam in this scene. He is now in Washington to hand in the shield that Steve gave to him. He hands it to the US government to exhibit in some sort of Captain America tribute museum. You see he's very in conflict and he's very in grief. But he decides that this is best for Sam. By giving away the shield, we can say that Sam has declined the offer by Steve to become the next Captain America. In this scene is a very special cameo. There are certain rumors on the internet that some certain character might return to the MCU, and this cameo might amplify that. Now it's time for Bucky. You can see him having nightmares about his time being the Winter Soldier. We even go back into a nightmare and we see it's a kind of flashback. And we see that he has to kill some man, but he also had to kill a young man who would be considered collateral damage to the Winter Soldier. To process this and to give it some peace, he goes and sees a therapist. I believe it's not completely voluntary. And can I say what a horrible woman the therapist is? Is it cruel to say? It's a horrible woman. We found out that Bucky is actually really alone since Captain America has gone away. Sam has tried to contact him, but Bucky hasn't responded yet. And I feel like Bucky wants to do this alone. He also tries to make amends for the things he has done as the Winter Soldier. For example, he helps arrest politicians who were Hydra funded. And remember that collateral damage that I was talking about? That young man? He befriended the father. The guilt is flushing through the screen. In the meantime, we see Sam going back to his birthplace in Louisiana to see his sister Sarah. He finds out that she has to sell the family boat because she needs to provide for her sons. And it's actually pretty devastating and really sad. Sam does everything he can and actually helps her to get a loan. He even uses his superhero status, but it doesn't work. This is the scene where the consequences of the blip are visible and actually pretty devastating. Both of the characters aren't doing really well, and Bucky actually tries to live a normal life. He actually goes on a date and he brings her flowers, which is really sweet. But he realizes that he can't live a normal life like this. Will we see a love interest for Bucky in this season? I really hope so, because he really deserves some unconditional love. A new threat comes in and it introduces itself in the first episode. They call themselves the Flag Smashers. We don't learn a lot about them in the first episode, but we do know what they want. They want all borders on the world to vanish and for blip era chaos to exist. The only appearance of this Flag Smashers we have seen in this episode is from one man. He's stealing a lot of money in Switzerland, and he's actually hidden behind a mask, so we don't see a lot of him. But he seems to have the same strength as Captain America had. The episode ends with an announcement from the US government. They have appointed a new Captain America. He is presented in full Captain America gear, including the shield that Sam handed in. The first episode has everything what you expect from a Marvel production. It has action sequences, it has character development, and of course, cameos. The action sequences are full of excitement, and I was sitting on the edge of my chair when they were almost across the border of Libya. This is true Marvel art cinematographic. We don't see Bucky in action yet in this episode, but let's face it, Bucky has other problems to deal with. I really loved how they showed the raw emotions in this episode. Emotions of grief, conflict, sadness for both Bucky and Sam. You see Bucky being traumatized as the things he did as the Winter Soldier, and we really get into his head. And we see Sam being in conflict and facing actual consequences of the blip. I feel that Marvel gave us more than just your typical happily ever after aftermath, which I think is really bold and makes it so much easier to watch the Marvel movies. You see other action movies not taking other elements being taken into account, like the grief of family members and consequences such as social consequences, financial consequences. That's one of the reasons why I love Marvel movies so much. This episode doesn't really feel like an episode to me. It feels like it's a blockbuster movie and being paused halfway through. Like, okay, let's pause it. Let's do the rest of the movie next week. And this gives the series some great opportunities, but it also comes with a couple of problems. One of the problems that could be is that I personally felt that the episode wasn't closed. It wasn't ended like, for example, the WandaVision episodes were. I have a lot of questions. Some are valid, some aren't. For example, who is that Torres guy? I didn't read the comics, and apparently he appeared in the comics, but to me he was just there. He barged into the story without a proper introduction. I hope we can get to know Torres, because I feel like he could be in this series a lot. We don't know a lot about him yet, and that's okay. I have a lot of questions who are valid, but some of them are like, what is that red handprint thing? Like, what is that red handprint thing? Where is that coming from? What is that doing on that phone? Torres talks about it in Tunisia. Later we found out what it could be in a later scene, but in that scene where he introduced the Flag Smasher, it was a bit hasty. I felt like that scene was a little bit sloppy, if you ask me. In that scene, a lot of important information is given to us as an audience, and I feel like they haven't slowed down enough. To me, they skipped a couple of steps in giving that information. I really felt like we didn't even know Torres, and then he starts introducing other people. I was like, buddy, why don't you introduce yourself first? Let's take a look at what could happen in the next episode. The episode ends with the appointment of another Captain America. Is this the reason why Bucky and Sam reconnect? And will Sam want to take that shield back? Does he want to become the next Captain America? One of my questions throughout the episode is about Steve Rogers. Where is he? Is he alive? Is he dead? What are people being told where he is? To the people of the world, he was, I don't know how old he was like 30 or something. When he was the world never got to see him as an old man. So I'm really curious, will he return to the MCU? I bet we see the Flag Smashers develop as a villain. I still have a lot of questions about them and the plans. Knowing Marvel, there are some morals and ethics involved. And I really love a good, solid, founded villain with his own pretty solid reasoning why he is a villain. Marvel villains are usually the best because I feel Marvel villains are not as two-dimensional as most movies portray their villain. And as you know, a movie or series in this case is as good as its villain. Now it's time for the verdict. I want to give this episode 8 of 10 stars. I feel this first episode, was a great start of the series. Everything we love about Marvel was in that episode. We do have to take into account that this was the first episode of the series, which means that new themes are being introduced, new characters are being introduced. So it might be experienced as a little bit slow, but for a first episode, that's completely fine. If it were the 5th episode, it would be a different story, but it's the first episode, so we need a little bit of backup information, and I didn't feel it was too slow. There was a lot of room for character development in this episode. The only thing I felt like was not really okay was the way how Torres was introduced and how the Flag Smashers were introduced by Torres. I felt that scene was a little bit too hasty for that amount of important information. It was actually the first scene of the series where they slowed down. It was right after the action sequence. And I felt it was just a little sloppy. But I can give nothing but praise to the rest of the episode. The cinematographic is amazing, and the way the emotions, the raw human emotions, were portrayed by Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan was just extraordinary. I am really looking forward to the next episode. If you haven't watched the first episode yet, go to Disney Plus and stream it immediately. So what did you think of the episode? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. We would really appreciate it. I hope to see you next time. Bye!